Is life just a playground? Think you're the real deal, honey, and someone will always look out for you.
Hey, I'm Mike, Penguin Truth, and it's time for the 3rd annual Action Channel month here on Otaku Evolution. The Stars/Encore Action Channel introduced me to a lot of anime back in the early aughts. Bubblegum Crisis, Blue Seed, Soul Bianca, Gunsmith Cats, Metropolis, and more, some of which I've covered in previous years. I feel like the cable channel never got the attention it deserved for airing anime, mostly because we were all focused on Cartoon Network at the time. Thus, the impetus behind this theme month. Though, to be honest, I'm starting to run out of more well-known stuff. To start off our 3rd foray into the world of the Action Channel, I'd like to pose a simple question that came to me as I watched our first feature. Why the fuck do they keep making Appleseed? Yes, it's another anime title based off of a Masamune Shirow manga. Another vague cyberpunkish rumination on the so-called techno-utopia/dystopia. And they just cannot stop remaking this thing. There was an OVA in the 80s, a series of movies, and a TV series. And besides 2 of the movies, they're all set in different continuities. There's more continuities than Ghost in the Shell, for fuck's sake, but unlike Ghost in the Shell, nobody cares about Appleseed! Got it, Japan? Nobody cares. Sure, we'll watch it now and then, but we're not clamoring for it. I've yet to run into the hardcore Appleseed fans you seem to think exist. So why is it that there continues to be remake after remake of Appleseed of all things? Why not more Tank Police? Asked and answered. The basic premise of the franchise is that after horrible war has ravaged the planet for decades, the only real civilization left is the utopian city Olympus, kept in order by the ESWAT security forces who protect it. The 2 main characters are Dune and Newt, your standard kick-ass Masamune Shirow female protagonist, and her man Briario's Hekatoncheires, a former soldier of fortune and a team leader on ESWAT. They basically fight robots and shit while stumbling onto the odd instance of navel-gazing. Now this time out I'll be covering the first movie from 2004 because I own it, I've seen it a bunch of times, and there's plenty of opportunity with it to be a smartass. Our movie begins with a video game cutscene. That is, the whole movie resembles a series of video game cutscenes, this one featuring Dunin fighting off an attack from unknown enemies in a tattered broken city that is either a shell left over from the apocalyptic war, or just modern-day Detroit. Regardless, the attackers are annihilated by some other party who then knock out our heroine with Stun Gun Millie's weapon. Briarios is there, as is this woman named Hitomi, whose first reaction to seeing Dunin is to immediately remark on what a fine piece of ass our Patlabor-headed friend reeled in. And then suddenly, Basement Jaxx. Well, Basement Jaxx plays while the opening credits roll and we're given a view of Olympus, but I'm on YouTube, so I have to be careful. You heard the song of the title card, just trust me, this is one of the best parts of the movie. Pretty sparsely populated megacity though, if you ask me. At what looks like a Barbie dream house, Briarios and Hitomi explain to Dunin that the war she's been fighting out in the wastelands has basically been over for a while, and now she's someplace safe, where they could use her skills to protect it. She had been fighting in the war with Briarios when he had gone missing, and after being injured had to replace body parts with machinery, which is a little off-putting to her. Patlabor gives Dunin her father's gun. Her father raised her during the wars and taught her self-defense despite being a scientist. Since Dunin is used to being out in the garbage heap, she finds her suddenly cushy surroundings take some getting used to.
It's your bed, right? What's that? Your bed is too soft. When I was over there, I sleep on the ground, use rock for pillows like a caveman. Now I'm home, lying in my bed, and it's like...
lying on a marshmallow. I feel like I'm gonna sink right to the floor.
The next day, Hitomi gives Dunin a tour of Shiny Land, which again seems to have a population of about a dozen or so people. Apparently also, most of those people are artificially created humans called bioroids, a bit like clones, of which Hitomi is one. She explains that Olympus is basically run by a supercomputer called Gaia that makes all the important decisions while interpreted by a council of elders. Then there's a bioroid prime minister who... wait, isn't this government a bit top-heavy? Whatever the case, Hitomi's Barbie dream car is suddenly attacked. They mean business because the damn thing is cut in half by killer gynoids. Dunin accepts their challenge and a fight commences with the Boom Boom satellites dive for you, and Pat Laborhead doing pretty much all the work. The last robot to go down mumbles something about the Appleseed key, before it's put out for good. Again, I'd love to show the scene with all its music, but, you know, YouTube. These two military douchebags... Colonel Hades and General Uranus. Subtlety, thy name is Appleseed. These two guys are the ones who sent the gynoids, as they're desperate to stop the elders from finding the Appleseed because it would tip the balance of power to the bioroids, who they distrust. They figure Dunin knows where it is since her father basically pioneered bioroid technology. Since the attack failed, they're scheming something bigger. Hitomi brings Dunin before the elders so they can provide exposition and probably offer her a Werther's original.
Bioroids are vastly different life forms from human beings.
Their reproductive functions remain inactive so they can produce no offspring.
In other words, no sex.
And since emotions such as love and hate are controlled, desire and enmity are almost non-existent.
However, because bioroids cannot reproduce organically, they must undergo a periodic life extension process. If not, their bodies will age rapidly and die within a matter of hours.
This is how we differentiated the bioroid species from our own, by suppressing reproductive function and altering their life cycles.
Dunin drops in on Hitomi's pal, an engineer testing out a robot combat suit for her. The thing looks like the orphan child of the Night Sabers Motoslades from Bubblegum Crisis and the lead mech from IGPX. Suddenly, a code red alert is called because of terrorists attacking the bioroid baby factory. And this is probably where the pre-mission cutscene ends and you go right into gameplay. While they're too late to protect the factory from the assailants, E-SWAT chases them down. However, the leader manages to get away. Conveniently, but inconveniently for her, just as the bioroid life extension stuff is busted, Hitomi collapses, having missed her regular appointment days ago because drama! Give me a break. They're really gonna play up Hitomi getting ill because of her own idiocy as a desperate scenario our protagonist must race to find a cure for? We barely know this woman, and she has left zero impact. Aren't the stakes high enough as it is with all the bioroids being threatened? Or is that not personal enough? This is all pretty trite. Prime Minister Athena, at a session of government officials and over public broadcasts, tries to calm tensions and assure the citizens. The elders are given a perfect excuse to prioritize finding the Appleseed, which will allow bioroids to produce offspring of their own. This greatly offends General Uranus, because he probably won't get invited to the massive bioroid orgy that will no doubt break out all around the city. Nobody wants to fuck a grumpus, General. Athena and the old geezers send an E-SWAT squad led by Briarios and including Dunin to what looks like the Ark from the first Patlabor movie. Apparently there's a lead on the location of the Appleseed there because it was a laboratory doing early bioroid research. The squadron make their way to the main lab and find a convenient holographic recording of the horrible fate that befell the researchers. And apparently Dunin recognizes somebody.
Mommy! What's wrong, honey? Did we wake you up?
What is it, Dunan?
It's her.
Yes, it looks like Dunan's mother was also instrumental in Bioroid research, her assistant even being Athena, and she entrusted the Appleseed component to a toddler Dunan in the form of a pendant. Dunan must have stashed the pendant in the gun her father gave her, which came into the possession of Briarios.
Wait! I heard how this ends. It turns out the secret code was the same nursery rhyme he told his daughter. Hey, it's pretty obvious if you think about it.
So, did nobody ever take apart the gun to clean it? Anyway, unfortunately for Dunan's mom, Hades and a bunch of military thugs storm the lab and gun her down, and Dunan gets to see it all! In the present, the military once again comes to wreck everyone's shit, and while the rest of the team holds them off, Dunan and Patlabor make their way topside. Our favorite Chappie insists Dunan fork over the pendant, but she has her doubts about his loyalty. She realizes that Briarios knew a lot more than he was letting on, and has some different agenda. Our two Final Fantasy-ish villains appear on deck. Uranus argues that Appleseed should be destroyed before the Bioroids utterly replace humans. Douchebag Von Spiky Hair is tired of standing around talking and starts shooting Patlabor. He tries to kill Dunan too, but Briarios protects her, and as they go over the edge, she puts one in his 10 spot. The two surface on shore where things look bad for Patlabor. And then we get some of the cheesiest, most cliché lines ever spoken.
I wanted to protect you, but I can't anymore.
I won't let you die.
Dunan, the elders.
Briarios!
The elders promised no loss of human life. But something else is going on. That's why you have to go. Hurry, before it's too late.
No, Briarios, I won't leave you.
You have to. The future depends on it.
There's no future without you. There's no future without you.
There's no future without you.
But before Patlabor can check out for good, here comes that one guy, he has zero appeal. He's a lame-o and he's gonna be forgotten quickly. Leaving Briarios to be fixed up, Dunan takes the mech suit back to Athena, now knowing her connection to her mother and wanting only to help her save the Bioroids. Well, that wraps things up pretty handily. I guess all's well that ends. Oh yeah, it turns out that the Elders were up to some shady shit this whole time. Not only have they been unplugging the Gaia computer to make big decisions themselves, but they've been plotting to usher in exactly what Uranus feared, complete Bioroid domination. And they're humans! Actually, they want to sterilize the humans, and we're hoping to trick Uranus, who surrendered off-screen, into destroying the big tanks on top of the weird towers, which were said to hold a Bioroid kill agent to hold over the Bioroids. It actually contains something that will sterilize the humans. Apparently, the Elders got tired of humanity's bullshit, and guys like Uranus convinced them that Bioroids should take over. Bioroids, on the other hand, were working on the Asimov robot rules and only wanted to save humanity from itself. Athena was trying to keep the Appleseed from the Elders, knowing that they would just use it as an excuse to sterilize humans and usher in their extinction. Turns out the Bioroids really like people. It's sort of how penguins think of us, I suspect. Just trying to guide us along. Well, the Elders decide to take things into their own hands and release, giant spider robots.
Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada. None of this. Six gunning this, brother running this. Buffalo Soldier. Look, it's like I told you.
Anyway, Hitomi miraculously revives and divulges the password to shut down the spider bots, which, conveniently, is her name. Before heading off with a likewise miraculously revived Patlabor, Dunan gives the Elders a piece of her mind.
So you're gonna give up and pass on our mistakes to the next race? We may have lost our chance at Eden, but we have to try to survive. We have to believe the future is what we make of it!
This thing is getting pretty tense for a situation that will ultimately get solved with a citywide clone orgy. But about the sterilization of humans thing, will the agent and the tank spread all around the world, or just affect Olympus? I mean, if there are human beings still living in the war zones, surely they'd be up to some boning from time to time, right? Just wondering. Fortunately for Dunan and Briarios, they only have to plug in the password on one of the spider things, and while it's difficult getting past their defenses, they manage it after a while, and Dunan gets to the password input screen. Patlabor has to be saved by our heroine, who has to try to hold him and enter the password at the same time, but with one letter missing, the computer does the rest for her. Maybe there was an autocorrect. The spiders shut down and, fall onto the city, probably crushing several of the dozen or so citizens who live there. Yay! The city is saved! Well, Hitomi and that one guy show up on the scene to congratulate Dunan and confirm that the elders have passed. Again, off-screen. Probably having lost the will to live or whatever lame Star Wars Episode 3 excuse. But now things are only looking up for Olympus, which is now heavily damaged and robbed of much of its government infrastructure. The end! And that was the first CG Appleseed movie. It sure is a thing that exists. I mean, it's more of an interesting experiment in the technology than it is a fully formed narrative with thematic thrust or character development. You're basically watching a game demo with all the gameplay taken out. It definitely would have made a better video game than a movie. But I think you ought to watch it at least once, even if it doesn't hold up super well. Next week, I'll be breaking into a classic anime franchise with more robots and a Yoko Kanno soundtrack. It's one of the best OVAs ever made, Macross Plus. Let's see if I can pull through that English dub. Until then, see ya!